The voice you are hearing is Kurt Francom with Fiddler Studios. And today I am going to do a website analysis for Hardee Property Management. Now this is a great website to analyze because as I've gone through this analysis, I found a lot of the same, I don't necessarily call them mistakes, but the results of a website that was built long ago, and now that we're in a different internet age, and I'll explain why, but why it's not going to work as well this time. Now, at the end of the day, you've got a website up. It looks decent, you know, it doesn't look like it's thrown together. It's obvious that you're a property manager, and there's obviously some links that work. But there's two things we're going to consider. One is from the standpoint of SEO, search engine optimization, or how Google understands your website, because we want Google to understand your website completely so that they don't mistake you for a shoe store, for a coffee shop, and that when people search, put in terms to search for property managers in the Boise area, that your website comes up. So let's talk about that first, and then we'll move on to the client experience, or the user experience, and maybe some adjustments that can be made there. So one thing to start with to see if Google's understanding your website is to go to the code that builds up your website. Now, I'm not a programmer or too techy this way, but there's certain components in the code that anybody can understand to truly understand how Google's perceiving your website. There's three things that Google's going to look for when they come to your website and scan it. The first one is the title tag. So in your title tag, you have Hardee Property Management Rentals and Property Management Single Family Homes, Townhomes, Condos, Apartments, Rent and Lease in Boise. Okay, this is a bit long, and at the end of the day, Google doesn't need to know what your name is. They know what your name is. They just want to know what it is. They're looking for keywords. So I would get rid of this name here, and then just focus on the single family home, townhomes, condos, and so forth. By doing that, it allows you to focus in on the type of keywords that you do. Now, I would even maybe reassess these keywords altogether, but maybe put renting and leasing in Boise, single family homes, townhomes, condos, apartments. Do it in that order. That's your title tag. Because as Google scans each page, they're looking for that title tag, because you're telling Google this is what's on this page. This is why people need to come here, and that's what appears when you do a Google search. So when you do a Google search like this, the title tag is what's showing up on this link that Google's showing, and so people are wanting to click on what they're searching for. Okay. So going back to the code, the title tag needs to be adjusted. The next thing Google looks for is heading tags, and that's called the H1 tag. And when you go to the H1 tag, the thing it's tagging is right here. About us. So you're telling Google, okay, now that you've landed on this page, the most important thing is about us. But about us, just that term, is very general. It's going to be on most websites. So again, there needs to be a phrase or some terms in there that will again clearly define to Google what it is that you do. Alright, and here's a trick that anybody can do with their website. If you put site : and then put your domain name after it, it'll tell you all the pages that Google has indexed onto their servers. And so this list, you have 67 pages that Google has indexed. Now, as you go through this, it didn't seem obvious that many pages were on the site when I went to it. And so as you go through here, you all of a sudden see all this duplicate content here. And as I go to some of them, the page, go to the next one, and go to the next one, the page is exactly the same, has the same content. And Google doesn't like duplicate content. It means something's not built right, it's not going well, and so therefore that's going to hurt your ranking. And so really just going through and auditing the pages that Google has indexed, and then removing some of these. And that's something any web developer can do very easily. But duplicate content will definitely hurt your presence online. All right, that was way too much time on SEO stuff, but almost 5 minutes. But that's some important building blocks when you get a website launched to make sure that Google can even find your page. And maybe you don't want them to find your page. Maybe you just want to have it on your business card and something comes up when people Google your business name. Now the next thing we look at is the user experience. when I go to a website, the one thing I ask myself is, what is it that this business wants me to do on their website? Now you have it, property management or real estate, which is pretty good. You have two clear options there. But scrolling down, it just kind of seems like the standard business of, here's about us, here's some various links that you can see about different things we do, and as I go to those different links, there's a bunch of content there. Available listings. Okay, that might be something they want to peruse. And if you want to be a tenant, enter your name here. Management services, enter info here. Contact, enter info here. But in reality, and I refer you back to a post that we did on our website about the 10 questions your website should answer, where you need to sit down and write a list of what are the 10 most asked questions that my clients or potential clients are asking me. And for each one of those, create a few paragraphs of information, and then on the home page, you're putting those answers, those questions, and then as people visit, people see those questions and think, that's the question I have. I'm going to click on that, and therefore I'll find my answer. Where this is a bit, arbitrary, just property managed real estate, and I'm sure if you went to 10 other property management websites, you're going to see the same basic model. And so to really differentiate yourself and draw traffic in is to focus on the questions they have. What's a good area in Boise to live? What's the crime rates in this area as opposed to another area? Now, I don't live in Boise, so I don't really know these questions, but you do. And so think about what are the most common questions you get asked, and then write content about those. It doesn't have to be professional or perfect, but just any content's going to help them more likely build trust with you and connect with you and create a business relationship with you. So, and that goes for every page. When I go to my About page, why do I have an About page? What do I want to accomplish? And that, just putting some content in here, I don't know if they really care about your vision or your mission statement or those things, but they do if it's in a way that answers their questions. So to provide an environment where clients and customers are treated with value, coupled with an experience that you both will want to repeat. So what's an example of that? What's a case study that you could share, write up, and therefore share to the world and say, this is why we're different. Here's an example of John and Sally and how we help them further find value in our services. Because a lot of this jargon is just, you can find it anywhere, regardless if it's a property manager. Everybody wants to create value. Everybody has the best service, but you've got to answer questions. The other thing I'd mention is just the format of the website. The slider's dead. And I don't mean your slider's dead. I mean in general, the idea of having a slider on a web page is just dead. More than half of the internet is looked on a mobile device. The website's not mobile compatible, doesn't respond to if I'm looking at an iPad or on my phone. Then it's going to be very hard to read. People would rather scroll than click. Again, people would rather scroll than click because it's easy to scroll with your thumb, but it's harder to click on a mobile device when you're jumping around to page. So a good mobile, even a one-page website, and you can see various examples out there of that, but the form of the website is just archaic, and that's fine. There's a lot out there that do that, but that's important. So then lastly, I'll reiterate, is content. Every day, if you spend a half hour to an hour writing some type of content, that will be the best, most productive way to separate yourself online, and you will get clients off of it. It will give you something to share on social media, and if you're answering questions that people already have that are in your market looking for a place to live, whether to own or rent, they will click on that and be engaged by that and brought into your world and therefore call you. So the easiest solution to this is really Fiddler Studios. This is why we've built this package to help small business owners look big online, is to do all that just simply $159 a month and no contract, get a great website, and does everything I've told you about. It's mobile compatible. It's focused on scrolling on mobile devices. We talk about 10 plus questions your website can answer, and then analytics that we can monitor and say, hey, look where people are paying the most attention. So hopefully this analysis has helped you and other business owners out there, and you are more effectively prepared to approach your online presence.